Well, welcome everyone to the November edition of What's New in Creative AI. Last month we were in Australia on a sunny, actually it wasn't that sunny, but it was a warm balcony, and today we are in Bath, but in our new studio.
Exactly. So we're recording from the new Spark Studios. We're booked out for James Bond next year, but we get to put our own little podcast in first. So here we are. So what are we talking about?
So today we are going to do a bit of a deep dive on Coca-Cola's AI Christmas ad. It's been talk of the town over the last month, so we thought we better give that a good go.
Yeah.
And then we're going to do the usual run through of what's happening with large language models, image generators, video generators. The dog is walking past the camera at the moment, if you can hear her footsteps. And then a bit about social media at the end.
Great.
Yeah, sound good?
Let's go.
Fab. So
Coca-Cola.
Yep, so they dropped the new Christmas campaign. It was created using AI. That was the big news.
Exactly. So Coca-Cola dropped their new Christmas ads. It's based on the famous Holidays Are Coming Christmas ads from the 1990s, which we've all seen, well, those of us of a certain age, have all seen many times. And Lila is making her TV debut. So what's the big deal? What we're seeing is one of the world's most famous brands using AI in one of its most high-profile marketing campaigns. What's the reaction?
Well, it is very polarised, as you would imagine. So fans who loved the original campaign were disappointed, especially the absence of the traditional elements. I think Santa Claus is normally in it.
Yeah, I think we know that AI-generated video of people can look a bit uncanny valley, and I guess an uncanny Santa wasn't really the look they were going for.
No, but people use words like creepy.
Someone even said dystopian nightmare. Probably not the reaction Coke were hoping for. But you know what? When they actually tested it in front of real viewers, the general public who are not told that it was made of AI, using System 1, which is a well-known industry tool for measuring the effectiveness and emotional response of adverts, it scored a 5.9 out of 6, which is the highest, pretty much the highest score you can possibly get. So they work.
Yeah, so that is super interesting. So should we talk about why that might be? Why we think it might be? Because we talked about this before. Is it because it is such an established brand and it actually, just that advert itself triggers an emotional reaction?
Yeah, I think, Coca-Cola's branding is so iconic. We're saturated in it every day. They've been one of the biggest marketers in the world for about a century now. So the moment you see the red and the Coca-Cola logo and what have you, you're kind of sucked in, right? You know what's, the psht of the bottle. You kind of know what's going on.
You know what's going to happen and how you're going to feel.
Yeah, so there's a whole sort of legacy of moments and emotions and visuals that they're tapping into. So the AI doesn't have to do too much heavy lifting. No,
that is the power of consistent branding, isn't it?
Totally.
Yeah, but in terms of how Coca-Cola reacted to the criticism we talked about earlier, though, they defended their decision, didn't they?
Well, yeah, I mean, they kind of have to, don't they?
Of course, yeah.
So, yeah, for them, I think it was, they want to be seen at the forefront of this stuff. They want to be seen on the front foot. They want to be seen as current. And this is a great opportunity for them to do that.
And we've talked before that they have their in-house image generation model.
That's right.
So it kind of is on, in a way, it's on brand.
Yeah. And, this is where big consumer advertising brands are going to go, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So one of the things that's interesting about the Coca-Cola ads is we've actually got quite a lot of detail in how they were made, because the production companies that were involved in making them have given some interviews to the tech press. So for us AI geeks, it's quite interesting then to learn about what they've actually done. So they worked with 3 specialist AI production studios, Secret Level, Silverside AI, and Wildcard, all based over in the US. And they used a number of different tools, including a custom-trained Stable Diffusion model, ChatGPT for helping do the storylines, and then a tool that Silverside have created themselves called Director Magic.
And the production times were crazy fast. I think, was it Silverside produced a rough draft only 3 days after having that briefing meeting with the client.
Yeah, I mean, for filming a traditional advert, 3 days after you'd met with the client, you'd still be reading the creative brief.
Yeah, plus we heard from them also that they delivered 110 different versions of the ad with 27 different tailored backgrounds. There were different skylines of different cities. I mean, that is amazing in terms of localization.
Yeah, so this is the kind of stuff that AI production starts to unlock. But it didn't go without its hiccups. So we all know that the AI tools struggle with text, and Coca-Cola obviously has that that very familiar scripted logo that we all know. So they had to use After Effects to put the logo on the trucks afterwards, and also for the Coca-Cola bottle to get the iconic shape of the Coca-Cola bottle just right. So those are things which clearly you can't compromise on as a brand. And so what we're seeing is a blend of AI generation and traditional animation coming together, which is, I think, they're going to be the future for a while now. We're going to see, AI being a part of something rather than the whole thing.
Yeah, so I guess it's faster, it's more flexible, it still needs humans. It still needs humans to come up with the ideas. I mean, but AI can also help with that too, of course.
Yeah.
But I guess what I think the key takeaway for me is that it has using AI has its own set of challenges which are different to the traditional methods.
Yeah, so what they found in this, these ads were produced over the space of about 3 months. And first of all, maintaining that visual standard on the brand to make sure that the logo and the bottle looked perfect. The second thing was AI tools are moving so fast that actually the tools they wanted to use actually changed during the production process as the different video generation tools were leapfrogging each other with functionality. So they actually changed their workflow halfway through the production process, which is crazy. And then, of course, there are some things which AI still struggles with, and there are some quirky moments in the videos.
Yeah. Quite fun to watch.
Yeah. So if you look closely, the wheels on the trucks don't always turn, so it looks like they're kind of gliding across the snow in some places. We see the odd bit of distorted backgrounds. So these things are still pretty early days.
Yeah. I'm just going to have to do a human interruption because our dog is licking her wound, which she's not allowed to do. Hang on 1 second.
Don't do that, Lila. Yeah, don't do that.
Good girl.
Yeah.
Okay, good girl, Lila. She had a big accident last week.
Yeah. So I think the big picture here is that we are seeing AI go mainstream when one of the world's biggest brands uses it for their flagship advertising campaign.
Yeah, and in fact, perhaps slightly counterintuitively, when you are a really big brand, AI is kind of easier in a way. You can overlook the kind of quirks of it at the moment.
Yeah, because people are so familiar with the visuals anyway that perhaps you can get away with it a bit more. I mean, what we're seeing actually is, the kind of whole AI infrastructure for creating material like this is starting to emerge. It's
really emerging, isn't it?
Yeah, the industry is starting to change.
And I think Silverside AI and Wildcard, and I forget what the other agency was that made the Coke advert, but they're already symbolising part of that, I think.
Yeah, so we're seeing these spin-outs come out of production companies, or sometimes they're new companies that have been founded that are AI first in the way that they're creating content. And we're seeing other ones like that as well.
Yeah, there are agencies that represent AI artists.
Yep, so we've seen
There's
Humane here in the UK represent AI artists in the way that we've seen photographers represented or directors represented in the past.
Just the same model. And there's also one based in Amsterdam, AI Agency.Amsterdam. They're an AI first creative agency. And a full service production studio too. And I think another one that's really interesting, talking about photography, is Scenes, based in Denmark. They're Copenhagen based, and they're a content agency, and they blur the lines between photography and AI generated visuals.
Yeah, so they're working with real photography and then AI generated and bringing those things together. So again, I think we're going to see that sort of hybrid stuff for a while now, whilst we need certain elements to be perfect, the product or the way the brand is represented, and other things can be AI generated, which gives us speed, variations, all those other things.
Yeah, and let's not forget what ITV are doing here as well.
Yeah, we might have talked on this on the last one.
I think we did. Yeah.
ITV have launched their own in-house AI production studio for TV commercials to help smaller brands access TV advertising much more affordably.
And you were telling me earlier how this reminds you of digital in photography, digital cameras.
Yeah. So my background is in photography, and back in the early 2000s, the industry was switching from film to digital, and some of the same issues were coming up. The reality was, at the beginning, digital cameras simply weren't as good as film, but actually they won out anyway because the production was more flexible. Firstly, you could shoot hundreds of frames and choose the best one, which was prohibitively expensive with film. Secondly, you were shooting tethered to a computer. So an art director could see the photos coming in as you were shooting and have much more control over the shoot. Whereas previously you had to send the film off to the lab and wait till the afternoon before you got any rolls back. So, you know, that flexibility is what made digital win out in the early days, even before the quality reached or exceeded that of film. So, and I think we're starting to see that with AI. Brands like the flexibility that they have with it, the speed.
Being able to visualize stuff so early.
Exactly.
Same thing, yeah.
The other thing we're seeing is kind of specialist roles appearing. So, you know, that transition of film to digital in photography saw the emergence of the digitech or digital technician who managed the computer and all the files coming out and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, they're ubiquitous now. You see them on every commercial shoot. And what we're starting to see in ad agencies now is the role of the creative technologist, who is somebody who, in the past, we've had, you know, designers or editors who are used to using Premiere Pro or used to using InDesign or what have you. We're now finding people who are mastering these AI-generated tools, working alongside art directors and copywriters to bring their visions to life.
It'd be really interesting to see if that is a point-in-time role while we're transitioning, or if it's going to be something that sustains.
Yeah, totally. Well, digital technicians are still around, and they're actually quite well-paid jobs. So I think there might be some legs in that.
There's a sign in that. Right, shall we shift gears now to the language models?
Yeah.
So OpenAI, they have been very busy with their updates of their existing model. Let me get this right. I always get it wrong because I'm dyslexic. ChatGPT 4.0, not 0.
Not 0.
Oh, yeah. And
very easy to
so
remember.
they've made it even more powerful. This will be inbuilt if you're using that model. It will be inbuilt, and you don't need to do anything new when you go onto ChatGPT.
So all the model builders are releasing all these little incremental updates. So from ChatGPT, we've seen improvements in its creative writing ability, which is something we've tended to lean towards Claude for in the past.
Yeah, we often have. Yeah.
So we haven't had the chance to do a back-to-back test yet. It just dropped last week. But actually we used it to help write the script for this, and it's certainly doing a lot better job than it used to. So those of you who are using 2 language models, maybe for the moment, you don't need to so much.
Might save on those subscriptions.
It's also got much better file analysis, so it's much more coherent to the documents that you upload to it. Sometimes it gets its facts wrong or brings in something it's read off the internet. It's much better at staying true to the document that you've uploaded and not missing anything.
So they've set the bar pretty high in the kind of large language model race. They've done a lot in the last couple of weeks.
We've also seen some improvements to Claude. So they released a demo a few weeks ago of computer interaction ability. So Claude was actually controlling a computer. It was able to see the screen of the computer, move the mouse, and interact with the user interface of the application and actually perform tasks on a computer. Now, that was very much in a demo environment, but clearly that is something that is in the pipeline now at all these AI companies, and I don't know whether that's 6 months away or 12 months away, but we are going to start to see models that are actually able to interact with your computer and actually perform tasks, not just give you an answer in text or speech format.
And this might be the main race that we see next year, similar to large language models this year, we think.
Totally.
Yeah. So, and it's not just OpenAI and Claude, also Gemini are coming from the behind.
Exactly, it's like the Grand National. So, Gemini. We don't talk about Gemini here very much because most of us have got our heads in ChatGPT or Claude. But never discount Google. They've got the deepest pockets of anybody, and they have been spending.
Maybe not. Maybe Elon.
Maybe Elon. Elon's in this game too.
Yeah.
Never discount Elon.
We'll talk about him more next time.
Gemini's had an under the hood update. They haven't changed the version name or anything like that, but it is now greatly improved. So have a look at Gemini. They have rolled out some features, which I'm going to find here.
They have got a memory feature.
That's right. They've improved the memory of it.
Which used to be much better in the other models compared to Gemini.
So it's now similar to ChatGPT in that your answers get more personalised the more you use it.
Because it's remembered some stuff about your previous interactions.
And they've also released an iPhone app. So it used to be Android only. They're now on iPhone. I'm going to mute my computer. So they've now released an iPhone app. It used to be Android only, so a little bit like with the ChatGPT app, you can now just talk to your phone and converse with Gemini voice mode on your phone. It supports 35 languages.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
So they're all just continuing this crazy race. Maybe next year we'll see who wins.
Yeah.
I don't know. So let's move on now from language to image.
That's right. So what are we seeing in image models?
Yeah, so first of all, let's talk about Adobe. If you follow our other channels, you might have seen we've done some updates about this on LinkedIn and so on, newsletter. But earlier this month, Adobe introduced a whole raft of AI capability in its stock imagery in Adobe Stock. And you can do all sorts of things now. You can, I'm going to read the list because it's quite long. You can swap and you can remove backgrounds from an image. You can expand images to fit any different formats. You can generate different versions. You can match different compositions that you give it a style match for, a bit like you would do in Midjourney. And you can preview all these changes before you purchase the image. You don't need to buy it every iteration. It's when you're finally ready. So they're definitely trying to go head to head or leapfrog over Getty, who did a similar updates a couple of months ago now.
Yeah, which we talked about from our South by Southwest Sydney update last month.
Yeah, because we've just seen them.
Yeah.
Midjourney have also done a lot of stuff.
So Midjourney are ceaseless in their updates. So the latest thing from Midjourney is their external editor. So those of you that use Midjourney know that you can, once you've generated an image, you can edit it within Midjourney, allowing you to change the aspect ratio, change elements in the picture, for example, or remix it with another photo to create something new. Well, now with the external editor, you can do that with your own photographs or photographs that have not been generated by Midjourney. So you can upload pictures from a brand asset library, for example, and then use Midjourney to extend the canvas or introduce new elements.
It's a very clever move.
Yeah,
doing that.
So we've seen some of that functionality already built into Photoshop with Adobe Firefly, but the image generation model within Midjourney is generally more coherent and stronger than Firefly. So this is sort of popping Adobe's bubble a little bit.
We probably need to do more digging on that, on what the IP implications are.
Yeah, good point.
We'll come back to you on that in December.
And then what else are we seeing? Oh yes, we talked last time about Leonardo being bought by Canva.
Yeah.
Bit of an Australian love-in. And Canva have now actually released Leonardo's image model in Dream Studio within Canva. So you've now got quite powerful image generation ability right within Canva.
Yeah. So a lot of these marketing teams who are using Canva as their go-to, they'll now have that capability built in. So let's go from image to video.
That's the usual way we do these things.
You have all the updates on Runway, so more talking, please, Jules.
Okay,
Yeah.
Runway. A lot been going on with Runway. So they've released what they call Act 1, Runway Act 1, which is essentially a motion capture tool within Runway. You can film something or use a piece of film. You can capture it on a video camera or just on your phone. And Runway will then animate the character in the film to match what you've captured on your phone.
Quite a lot of people have been playing around with this and putting it on LinkedIn, so you might have seen people doing this.
You might have seen some bad versions of it, but it's actually very powerful. So now you can have animated characters that have genuinely natural animation and reaction and lip sync and other things. So the uncanny valley might soon be a thing of the past. It works better with sort of cartoon characters at the moment rather than sort of photorealistic ones. So don't quite expect it to replace Netflix just yet. But for animated characters, quite frankly, it looks brilliant.
Yeah, it really does.
We're also seeing advanced camera control released, which allows you to have much more control about how you move the camera within a runway shot. Why is that important? Because control is the hardest thing with these models. They can produce incredible pictures, they just don't always produce the incredible picture you want. So anything that allows you to get more control is really important. And finally, we're seeing them able to extend video clips, like external video clips that you have already created. And for those of us that edit videos from time to time, we know just how frustrating it can be when you wish you had a couple more seconds on the end of a clip for the edit. So now you can do that. And it's also going to get built into Premiere Pro, Adobe's edit suite, because they've formed a bit of a link up there.
I think that's a really good example of actually quite a small tweak makes a huge difference to people's lives. So editors are going to be absolutely loving that.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I think it's everything on video.
Yeah.
So we move over to we haven't talked about this before, TikTok.
TikTok. We
Yeah.
don't talk about TikTok. Do we
We
look
don't.
like TikTokers? No, we don't.
But TikTok have hooked up with Getty Images, talking about Getty Images again, and they now have like a content creator tool where you can, you know more about it than me.
Well, yeah, I mean, I only know what I've read in the press release.
We
but-
haven't used it yet, so if you have, please comment below.
Yeah, if you're a TikToker, let us know.
Yeah.
But they now have user-generated tools to allow Symphony Creative Studio, I believe it's called. And what you can now do is use one of Getty Images' vast library of 500 million images to bring into Creative Studio and then animate it. So you can now create essentially talking avatars of people in photos from Getty Images library. So what are people going to do with that? It's TikTok. They're going to do everything with it.
We are going to see some stuff that might inspire us and some stuff that will make us despair. So I've read some reviews from social media agencies and from actual Social Shepherd here in Bath, who are an amazing agency, and they say it's still quite clunky, but we have seen from all these other tools they have moved so fast from being clunky to super slick.
Yeah,
So-
never write these things off,
Yeah.
right? You know, if it's a bit crap today, give it 3 months, it might be very good.
Totally.
So,
Yeah.
and interestingly, it kind of mirrors what we've seen. We talked a couple of months ago about YouTube rolling out generative AI tools for their creators. We're starting to see these tools roll out more and more. And in fact, the latest one we've just heard about just this week is from Amazon. So Amazon are rolling these tools out into Amazon ads as well. So
Yeah.
we're going to start to see a lot of sort of, I guess, small creator or user-generated content used for advertising on TikTok, on YouTube, on Amazon, putting a lot of control into the hands of small creators, small businesses, and giving them the opportunity to be very creative.
Brilliant. So I think I'm going to move us on to another thing that we don't normally talk about. We don't talk much about NVIDIA, who are behind a lot of the AI technology because they create the chips that are in the like server farms for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about them?
What about them? You told me all about this, so I thought you were going to
So
explain.
what about NVIDIA? So we normally think of NVIDIA as a hardware company. You know, they build all these chips, and that's why they've become the most valuable company in the world right now. But they also make software. And so they have released a new 3D tool called Edify 3D. We're going to show you the little video of it here. It's just a demo at the moment, but from text descriptions or from still images, it can create 3D nets and 3D models that you can then manipulate within a 3D environment in their tool, and you can also export those models into other tools. So, and the models are much more high fidelity than what we've seen from other 2D to 3D AI tools. So this is the kind of thing that, you know, used to take days of work can now be done perhaps in a few hours. So
It's also an interesting strategic move of NVIDIA into going into software from the hardware.
yeah, so because NVIDIA have this stranglehold on AI chips, Google and Amazon are trying to make their own AI chips. And so NVIDIA is now trying to create software around their hardware that kind of locks people in and makes it harder to switch over to use an Amazon chip or a Google chip when the time comes.
Another example of the crazy AI race that's going on at the moment.
Exactly, yeah.
A race for supremacy.
People are just burning piles of cash.
Yeah, for sure.
Great, and then I think we're on to our last story.
We are, and we thought we'd do it's thought-provoking, but slightly more lighthearted. So last week we talked about, well, not last week, last month we talked about the search function on ChatGPT, which
Called
is very
Search GPT.
Yeah, it's actually got a straightforward name, which is unusual for these things.
Not Search GPT 5100.
Yeah, it's very similar to Perplexity, but it seems that people are already figuring out how to kind of game the system on it, having a bit of fun with it.
Yeah, so we've probably all had that moment where you've been on holiday somewhere and you suddenly see that there's one restaurant that has 500 Gen Zers all queued up outside it because it's gone viral on Instagram.
And you're like, oh God, it's Instagram famous. Like my favourite sandwich shop here in Bath, which I can never go to anymore, so I don't have time to queue that long.
Exactly.
So annoying.
So what's happening? Well, these new tools like SearchGPT and Perplexity, nobody quite understands the algorithm for how they get their data just yet. But we do know that OpenAI have signed a deal with Reddit and are using Reddit to train their content. So enterprising Londoners who have got a little fed up with the TikTok queues outside their favourite restaurants have been bigging up good old Angus Steakhouse. So they've been leaving rave reviews on Angus Steakhouse on Reddit, all over Reddit, saying that it's perhaps the best meal you'll ever have when you're on holiday in London, desperately trying to get people to game SearchGPT into recommending Angus Steakhouse as a restaurant.
I do feel a bit sorry for the tourists, but God, the owners of Angus Steakhouse, who owns that?
Printing money.
Yeah.
But what does this tell us? I think it tells us two things. One, nobody really knows how these AI search engines work. So be careful what you do with the data that comes out of them. You don't know what data they've been trained on. And if they've spent a bit too much time reading comedy threads on Reddit, you might find you're going to a bad restaurant. But that's obviously that's fine if it's just a restaurant choice. But whenever you're making a decision based on something that you've got out of these tools, if it's important, double check it.
Yeah, just like most things on the internet.
Sure.
Yeah, you probably look at a few things.
Yeah, and maybe another thing to think about out of this is it's quite interesting how people have reacted to this problem.
Yeah,
right?
The psychological reaction to it, and or maybe the sociological reaction. It's quite fascinating. I know a lot of universities are looking into this, so maybe we will do a bit of a feature on it.
Yeah, so this definitely shows perhaps the unintended consequences of some of these AI tools. If we roll back 15 years ago when social media was new, it was thought to be a wonderful way for people to connect with each other. And since then, we've seen the toxic side of social media become a very challenging issue.
And the mental health impacts, yeah.
And with AI tools, as they actually enter mainstream society, we're going to see things that people weren't expecting happening. And I think this is an example of that.
I think it is, yeah. So I think that's all for now.
That's it for November, folks.
We have actually got time for one more before Christmas, so we will see you, I think it's on the 19th of December.
Yeah, we're going to sneak it into your Christmas stocking.
Yeah. Okay. See you soon. Have a good month.
Have a good month. Bye.